Hey, what's going on, guys? Thank you for joining me for today's episode. So, hopefully, you guys did enjoy the past two Mark episodes that I did put out. Now, generally, I don't like to bring negativity to the channel, but like I said, man, sometimes you just gotta have some kind of, excuse me, you just gotta be able to go out and vent sometimes, and when some of this crap happens to you, it's nice to have this sort of platform to kind of, I don't want to say scream at the world, but kind of get your feelings out there. I mean, it's a whole lot more cost effective than going to a therapist, right? So, so today we are returning to the My Favorite LJN tournament, and we are on round 2, part 7 of the My Favorite LJN tournament. So, not a whole lot going on today. Not a whole lot to talk about. So, on Mercari and eBay, I've actually gone out and bought a lot of new VHS tapes. So, some of the stuff that I was missing, such as WrestleMania 4, I talked about that the last WrestleMania I had was like WrestleMania 8. So, I went out and I got WrestleMania 9. And I know I got WrestleMania 11 in. I think WrestleMania 10, I might still be bidding on WrestleMania 10, or maybe that's one of the VHSs I bought. I don't know, but shoot, I think 10 through 15, I'm either actively bidding on them or have already purchased them. So, when did 15 come out? That would have been sometime around 2000, I would say. In all honesty, like I've said before, guys, 1997 is probably when I stopped watching wrestling. So, 97, maybe 98 at the latest. I really don't have those type of memories, so I really don't remember. But, so when you start getting in like 98, 99, 2000, do I really have any interest in watching all those WrestleManias? Not really. But one of the things I talked about wanting to do is kind of go back, watch these different main events, watch WrestleMania 1. Kind of do a little recap with you guys. Maybe do a SummerSlam. Maybe do a Royal Rumble recap. Now, I don't know if I want to do like all of the WrestleMania straight through, and then come back to all the SummerSlam straight through, Royal Rumble straight through, etc. Or if I kind of want to do all of the main events per year. I think it would be better for all of your 1985 main events, all your 86. I think Survivor Series started in 1987, so that could have all your main events, you know, for that year, etc. But it all depends on how I plan on viewing these videos. I talked about watching WrestleMania 1 months and months and months ago. I watched like 45 minutes of it, and I have not been back to watch any of it since. I just 45 minutes, and that was enough for me. I got it. A lot of people thought WrestleMania 1 was amazing. From what I've seen, it was completely boring. I have really no interest in going back and rewatching it. But some of the main events, like Stud and Andre, for example, or some of the tag team matches, maybe I will go back and watch it at some point. Maybe with these new acquisitions of these VHSs, it'll give me motivation to go in and actually dive in and start watching these videos. And I want to find some way to kind of incorporate those videos or those clips into that video. So if I'm doing a review with you guys, I want to be able to at least show maybe parts of it. Now, when I did my 500th video, it was kind of like a special WWE type video. And when I posted it that day, maybe within like an hour or so, I got a strike, or not a strike against the account, but it was taken down. YouTube took it down, so copyright infringement. So the WWE wasted no time in taking care of that. So, and I tried to make an argument with WWE to kind of get it approved, and it was no dice. So officially, my 500th episode can't even be found on my channel anymore. So, but enough of that. Let's go ahead and dive into today's video. And like I said, this was part 7. Yes, round 2, part 7. And let's see what the first matchups are going to entail. From Random Treasure, no, that's Robert Jackson. The J and the T kind of look alike, so got to kind of pause for a few seconds. From Robert Jackson, Ricky Steamboat squares off against the USA Corporal Kirchner. Next up, we're going to see Wrestling Writers Ken Patera as he does battle against regular or original Series 1 Hogan. American Warrior is going to square off against, go figure, the Hogan version of Ultimate Warrior. Wow. Alright. Last matchup is going to feature Brian Pillman. And he is going to do battle against Hillbilly Jim from Mark Hackenberg. Alright, so figures or names have been drawn. Let's go ahead, get this video paused, get the figures drawn, and we'll be back shortly. Alright, folks. Figures have been pulled, and let's get these items drawn, or let's get started, shall we? Try to find the right angle. Yeah, that's fine. Whatever. Ricky Steamboat from Robert Jackson takes on the USA variant of Corporal Kirchner. And we'll look at Corporal Kirchner first. So, oddly enough, this one came, I said, from Mercari, and this came from Harvey Snuts. Of all the Corporal Kirchner figures, I was thinking that maybe this was probably going to be like my least favorite figure. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just because the white shirt and maybe the American flag was just very simple, so I really didn't feel much about it. And, you know, the facial paint for the beard was very simple, and when you compare it to like the actual bearded Kirchner, it didn't really stand out. It wasn't something that really jump out to me, right? So in the first round, when I look at this figure, and I don't remember who he squared off against, but I remember that it was a very tough decision, and the figure that he beat was one that I really wanted in round 2. So kind of talking about the figure, looking him over, I had so much more of an appreciation for this figure. And even the way that they had redone the woodland camouflage on the BDU pants. Okay, yeah, the original Corporal Kirchner was a spectacular figure. But I love customs, and I will say, what do I say? It's because it's a different take on something that already exists. You might have 5,000 people that have this figure, right? But realistically, most customs are unique, and you're probably going to be the only person with that particular design. Someone else might see that design and might try to imitate it, but they're not going to get it exactly the same way, especially if it comes from different customizers. So most of the time when you have a custom figure, you generally have a one of a kind. So it is really unique, and that's nice. Whereas with an original figure, 100 million people have the darn same exact figure, so it's not anything flashy or special. Now, not unless you get like a prototype, or if you find something that's unheard of, like mint on card Ultimate Warrior LJN. It took me forever to find a mint on card LJN, and even the one I found, you know, the bubble was, you know, like somebody had taken a lighter and burnt around the edges, right? So it's not even like the most crisp LJN mint on card, but it's, shoot, how often are you going to come across something like that, right? So swapping out the black, gave him some like green jungle boots. I think it would have been nice, a little bit different if they had added some black around the green, or made it black and maybe the inside part green or something. But you know what? I will call it green jungle boots, or even green jump boots for that matter. And I actually like the color scheme of the trunk of the pants, and I'm kind of looking at the, I should have brought down the original, because I don't know, even though the lime green is a lot brighter than what I'm accustomed to, I think the overall design is very much more reminiscent to the 2000s BDU pants that, I was wearing when I was in the Army. So, like I said, you got to think that we had a much darker tone, but still this respective detail. And even the beard, not everybody's going to have like that most pristine, perfectly designed beard. So I think that they did a spectacular job on this. Corporal Kirchner, when he came into WWF, again, this isn't someone that I watched growing up, because this is like mid 80s, right? This is mid to late 80s, 85, 86, 87 era. You think between 85 and 87, when I'm between the ages of 0 and 2 years old, I'm not going to remember that stuff. 88, when I'm 3 years old, maybe I can remember some things. 3, 4, 5, fine. But when you're around ages 2.5 and lower, you're not going to have a lot of memories. A lot of stuff that I've seen is hearsay from other content creators, or it's going back and it's watching YouTube videos and seeing certain clips like those Corporal Kirchner vignettes and whatnot, and I thought they were pretty freaking incredible. Kind of gave a nice little Rambo flavor to it, which I thought was awesome. And of course, around 87, when you got the Hasbro upscaled LJN figure for the G.I. Joe Sergeant Slaughter, yeah, Corporal Kirchner was supposed to be your replacement for Sergeant Slaughter, and Corporal Kirchner was a real life, I think he was a paratrooper in the military, in the Army himself, so I think that was pretty freaking awesome. I think Corporal Kirchner, I think this particular figure can do very, very well in this tournament, so I'm kind of curious how I make my selection. I think if I was born in the late 70s, even in the very early stages of the 80s, Ricky Steamboat would mean a whole lot more to me. Again, by the time I became familiar with Ricky Steamboat in the 90s, yeah, I absolutely loved his dragon getup and whole breathing fire and everything. That was amazing. That was a fun gimmick, and no one could tell me different. I know a lot of stuff in the 90s get a lot of bad raps for being too cheesy or whatnot, but I think the dragon was spectacular. And for a guy that was, a face his entire career, that was freaking awesome. Someone who was a mega superstar everywhere he went, from AWA to WWF to WCW, etc. I'm not going to talk about all these other territories and whatnot. You got to highlight the main programs, right? So, and I think he was heavyweight champion in all those territories. WWF, I think he was Intercontinental champion. I don't think he was ever heavyweight champion. I'm almost positive he was never heavyweight champion in WWF, but he was definitely Intercontinental champion. And what was it? WrestleMania 3, I believe. I might have it backwards, but I think it was. Did Randy Savage beat Steamboat in WrestleMania 3 to win the championship? Again, this is kind of why I got to go back and I got to watch those WrestleMania tapes, because I kind of got to educate myself a little bit and kind of learn a little bit more. Because a lot of stuff, I'm trying to go off memories. I'm trying to go off of stuff that I've learned over time, but I don't remember watching Ricky Steamboat versus Randy Savage. But from what I'm told, it's supposed to be like one of the greatest matches of all time. Facebook yesterday, I kind of saw like a minute and a half type of video. I didn't sit there and watch the whole match, obviously, but it showed Bret Hart versus 1-2-3 Kid, and oh my god, I am dying to see that freaking match, because that could look like just a 1 minute clip, and I'm like, shoot, this could be the best match ever. That was some incredible takedowns and maneuvering, so I'm like, I am eager to see that, but I'm gonna have to come back and watch those matchups. For this particular matchup, Corporal Kirchner is my answer. Corporal Kirchner is probably a top 30 all-time favorite LJN figure for me, and like I said, Ricky Steamboat among original LJNs is top 11, top 12 worst figures, and Rob Jackson did a splendid job on this figure. I mean, obviously, highlight a lot of key graphics on this figure. Light years better than what you got with the straight black original figure, but there's only so much you can do with the Ricky Steamboat outside of changing the entire pose and look of the figure, kind of like what they did with that Dragon resin figure. There's not much you can say outside of, you know, what it is, custom or original figure. So next one we're looking at, who was that? But that was Patera and Hulk Hogan Series 1 takes on custom Ken Patera from Wrestling Rider. And we will start with the Hogan figure. And this figure kind of bothers me right now. Reason being, back in round 1, I don't remember which video it was, but it was a very early video. Video 4, video 7, something like that. Round 1, part 7, something like that. I mean, again, I don't remember the exact video, but Hulk Hogan Series 1 squares off against original Series 6 Ultimate Warrior. I hate that. Because I feel like Hogan Series 1 and the Series 6 Ultimate Warrior, those are, in my opinion, legitimate last two-man standing figures. So to see them square off against each other in the first round, you are literally eliminating one of the greatest figures ever made right from the get-go, and it's a waste. I always say first round eliminations is an absolute waste of a tournament appearance. Kind of like the same way I feel about Royal Rumbles. If someone comes into the ring and they're eliminated within the first 5 minutes, it's a complete waste of a roster spot. So those guys that come in the ring and they're eliminated within seconds, waste of time. Hulk Hogan, this figure, oddly enough, I feel so highly about this figure. I've always said that I kind of feel like Hulk Hogan Series 1, and I could say this about plenty of figures, but I always said that this could be potentially the greatest action figure, wrestling action figure ever made. Forget LJN, think about any wrestling toy from any toy line imaginable. Perfect height, perfect play pose. All right, rubber, so it's kind of movable, but not really. It's still a stationary figure, but as a rubber, you can still move it to what you need to do with it, right? You want like the little bear hug and stuff. So even though I love that the fact that Hasbro's go up and down, right? At the same time, over time with play, those arms do become loose, and what do? They just kind of spin around, and they don't have that nice stiffness to the arms anymore. So there is obviously preference to LJN for particular reasons, and that's one of them. Hasbro are the figures of my childhood, so obviously Hasbro will always be number one, regardless. And the Hulk Hogan figure is an absolute perfect, beyond perfect figure. Do I regret him defeating Ultimate Warrior? No. This is still a far superior figure. But again, this is a figure that in past tournaments never made it out of the first round. Well, in the past tournaments, this figure always squared off against his custom counterparts. And a custom figure always moved on to the next round. So, eliminating the fact that we weren't going to do custom against original, every figure was going to be his own man, basically, and was going to have an opportunity to win. This figure, in round one, going up against his Series 1 custom, maybe I like that custom better. A Series 1 original Hogan going up against that exact same custom figure in round 4, in round 5, round 6. Maybe I feel completely different about it. Because I do, after all, covet originality, right? So maybe this is the time when an original Series 1 Hogan not only advances so much further than he has in previous tournaments, maybe this is finally the opportunity where a Series 1 Hogan finally wins the tournament. Does he? You know how much of a high value I place on a Series 1 Hogan. Now, in terms of legitimate monetary value, yeah, you're not looking at the most expensive figure ever. I mean, a figure in this condition, you're probably looking at about $35. I mean, this is not mint, but I mean, it's close enough, right? So yeah, you're looking at about a $30, $35 figure for this condition. With paint loss and everything, you're probably looking at about $15 maybe. So 20 bucks, somewhere in that neighborhood. Ken Patera from Wrestling Writer is a fantastic figure. Now, this is the much younger Ken Patera. This is pre-jail Ken Patera. This is post-Olympics. And once you get rid of the belt, you actually got the little Olympics design on there. And I like the little workout belt that they wrap around. That's pretty awesome. I've said that the Ken Patera, and again, I am gonna do that again. When I finish this tournament, I am gonna do my list of top 10 worst LJNs, top 10 best LJNs. Purple LJN, Ken Patera was on my top 10 at number 10, worst LJN. BS. That is not a top 10 bad figure. Top 15, top 20, because of pose only. From Wrestling Writer, though, Ken Patera Custom was on my list of top 10 best Wrestling Writer figures. So it just shows you, again, custom, the right color scheme can make a huge difference. Accessories can make a huge difference. Fighting pose can make a huge difference. And how I value these figures. Now, when it has all of the above, great pose, comes with a fantastic accessory, color scheme is absolutely incredible. Yeah, that's basically going to put it from great figure, astronomically good figure, to absolute elite figure. I mean, Ken Patera has so much more to offer, and that includes the bulkiness of the figure than the Hulk Hogan. I've said it repeatedly in this tournament. There are very few figures, custom or original, that I'm going to value more than a Hulk Hogan figure. And yes, even though I put customs over my original figure in the past, because he's already made it out of round one, I don't know if I necessarily would say that I still look at the customs as better figures than the original nowadays. Your interpretation or the way that you value them, especially in a tournament like this, it's going to be far different based on when you see the figures. I've talked about Bruiser Brody. Bruiser Brody can go up against Hulk Hogan in round one, and I might choose Bruiser Brody because, well, Series 1 original has always been eliminated in the first round. Bruiser Brody's always won. But if these two figures square off in the finals, who's to say that this can't finally win at all? Better pose, much better pose, name recognition. I mean, a freaking superhero in my life growing up. Still my all-time favorite wrestler. One of the best performers ever. No one can freaking rile up a crowd the way Hulk Hogan can, okay? So Hulk Hogan, for me, absolute easy choice. Next matchup, this one, I never liked this. American Ultimate Warrior versus Wrestling Writer Ultimate Warrior. So, if I had gone back in time and repurchased that Random Treasures Ultimate Warrior, I wouldn't have purchased the Random Treasures in this color scheme. I either would have gone with this color scheme, which is his wrestling which was the Royal Rumble 91, where he lost his heavyweight championship to Sergeant Slaughter with the help of Queen Sherry and Macho Man, of course. And I love the fact that I was able to get a purple belt put on this particular figure. And with its respective color scheme, it all makes sense. But this is the one I would have gotten. Or I probably would have gone with the Hasbro Series 3 Purple Warrior color scheme. Make it a little bit different. In fact, the one I asked for from Eric, Wrestling Matter, because I wanted another figure just like this, I might have asked him to get me a Series 3 Hasbro color scheme. But if that figure ever comes in, I don't know. But I'd have to talk to him at some point and see if that's even still on the docket or not. But original Series 6 Ultimate Warrior is a absolute killer figure. It is one of those figures, and it's like customizing a Hasbro Series 3. It's already a perfect figure. Why would you want to customize it? It makes no sense. Unless the figure has like massive paint loss. But I look at this figure and this isn't a random treasures figure. You could tell by the type of rubber. And it's got to be an original though. But why would you paint over the stencil? I mean, it is a rubber figure. It's not resin or anything, but I don't remember how much I paid for this. I think it wasn't like crazy expensive. If I did, probably like $125. And if it was original and you're paying $125, I mean, that's freaking awesome. Because, again, the value goes down for the figures once it's customized. Even if all you're doing was filling in or touching up an original figure. Which I don't understand. That to me will never make sense. You're making it look brand spanking new. You're making it like if you got a Andre the Giant Series 6 with blackstrap, right? And it's like massive paint loss, right? And you're looking at a $400 figure. And someone comes in and they paint it and it looks brand spanking new. Shiny, beautiful black paint. Looks like it just came off of the manufacturing floor, right? And suddenly it goes from a $400 figure because with massive paint loss to a $100 figure because it's been painted. I'm like, that's ridiculous. If somebody's charging you $400 and you're willing to pay it for a massive paint loss, you would think that paint job would increase it threefold at least, make it a $1,200 figure. Oh, well, I want original paint. Okay, great. Everybody wants original paint, but I mean, I'm not going to sit there and complain that somebody or offer less because it's been touched up. I mean, to me, you're bringing back the value. You're bringing it back to life. So I look at a figure like this and I'm like, I would pay up for this even more. This was original. I think it was. I could be wrong. I don't remember who I bought it for, but based on the description, if I recall correctly, I think it was an original Warrior that they customized, and like I said, the price was fantastic for what it was. So, when I say heavy hitters, there is a reason why this Ultimate Warrior means so much. This is essentially a 2-in-1 Ultimate Warrior. We just saw Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan Series 1 is one of my most perfect figures ever. You got the Hulk Hogan figure, right? Alright, got it. You have Hulk Hogan. Now you're basically blending Ultimate Warrior with a better head sculpt, much better, incredible hair, paint job, much more better, incredible boots, giving him a color scheme that makes him much more desirable. So this is literally a 2-in-1 figure. This should be a figure that could top Bruiser Brody. Oddly enough, this was, I do believe, in my first. So, first and foremost, I hate putting Warrior against Warrior. Now, if this was like around 4 competition or later, you know what, the figures are winding down. It makes sense, but that's fine. But in the second round, no, I don't like this. I am going to choose the Wrestling Rider Ultimate Warrior to move forward. Not only is it one of my most favorite figures, one of my top 10 all-time favorite figures of everything that I own. That's one. 2, this is green. This is what I'm familiar with. You think Hasbro Series 1? This is one of his most synonymous looks, right? In the first tournament, you look at all the Warrior customs, you look at the original Ultimate Warrior, and yes, I did take this Ultimate Warrior as well, because it wasn't just Ultimate Warrior Series 6 and all of the Ultimate Warrior Series 6 figures that look like this. I took any Ultimate Warrior figure, right? Just like I took any Hercules figure, for example. Trying to think what other figures out there that I would have had different from others, but I would have put them all together, and this was my winner in the first round. In that first tournament, this was a semi-finalist. I don't remember who took him out. If I had to guess, I would say probably Bruiser Brody. Second tournament, Series 6 original, only squared off against figures like this, against other figures with the same body type. So this figure had his own, was able to square off against others on his own. Same thing with the Random Treasures Ultimate Warrior. Different body type, he was his own figure. So I think this was only like a third rounder the last tournament, and realistically, I think Bruiser Brody had to be the one to take him out, because he's probably the only figure that probably could. I still think that this is one of those figures that, yeah, with enough time, still could be a legitimate person to win this tournament. I mean, don't get me wrong. Just because Bruiser Brody is 2-0 against him, in my estimation, doesn't mean, Bruiser Brody could be 50-0 against him. I still think that this could win, because your opinion is constantly changing. I still see this as a semifinalist. Is he going to be in the last 4, last 5 standing? I want to say yes. But with these random drawings, you just never know how they're going to play out. The last matchup features Ram Treasures Brian Pillman 2-up, Galoob 2-up, as he squares off against Hillbilly Jim, which is a Mark Hackenberg custom. So I got a couple of different these Hillbilly Jim customs, and so the two that I got, this one is a much darker blue coverall, and even though when you look at the original, so when you look at the original Hillbilly Jim, and then you look at one of my customs, that Hillbilly Jim, it's got like very like light blue, sky blue, and then this is a much darker, not quite navy blue, but just a darker blue than what you get from the other version. So, plus it really friggin' pops. Everything from Mark Hackenberg pops. Love his figures, man. And I think I got this one before I got the other one, the other variant of this Hillbilly Jim. And one of the things I've talked about that I really enjoy is that he also fills in like the color of the handkerchief or the buckles. So you could look at it, well, it's not how the original prototype looked. Oh well. The point is, it makes the figure pop, it makes it look more splashy. And yeah, I still look at these figures as being the sort of prototype. When you look on the back of the LJN boxes, Hillbilly Jim was in a black shirt, not a red shirt. So, Hillbilly Jim always was a first round elimination in my previous two tournaments. But I always put him against Big John Studd in the first round. Pretty much the first video. Because I always did it the way the figures were situated on the shelves, right? And I think I did the same thing the first video or first tournament that I did. Then I did the same thing in the second tournament and pit the figures I wanted to put forward, like I didn't have any customs Hillbilly Jim, so but I would have customs Roddy Piper, right? So Roddy Piper would face off against himself. So Roddy Piper would move forward. And then Iron Sheik in the second tournament had a custom, so he squared off against himself. So he moved forward to the second round. But I didn't have any Hillbilly Jim custom, so Hillbilly Jim squared off against Big John Studd. I love the Hillbilly Jim figure. And considering that this was the Hillbilly Jim was like my second figure that I ever bought from so yeah. The Nikolai Volkov was the very first one I ever bought, and Hillbilly Jim was my second, and I only paid like $6 on that figure, the first one I ever bought. And go figure. I mean, Hillbilly Jim is not an expensive figure, and there's a reason why he's always customized, because he's not an expensive figure. What I'm seeing a lot nowadays, and I'll probably talk about it every time I see Hillbilly Jim or every time I see Bruiser Brody or Greg Valentine, people are trying to emulate what Zashman does with his Bruiser Brody, and they take the Hillbilly Jim head, they pop it on a Greg Valentine figure, and paint it up a little bit and call it Bruiser Brody. I'm like, no, you're diminishing the value of my Bruiser Brody, and I'm gonna keep talking about that because it's infuriating, and it's an inferior product. I mean, would it be if I didn't have that Bruiser Brody and I got those figures, would I like them? Probably, but I also don't like the fact that they're destroying good figures. And yes, Hillbilly Jim is an excellent figure. Brian Pillman. So I had the Bengal shorts. Brian Pillman as a kid from the Galoob line, right? And I never had Sting. And you would think that among Galoob figures, Sting should have been like one of those characters that we absolutely should have had. But no. As an adult, I despise the Sting figure because his hands are straight up like so, right? And it's just basically ripping off your Macho Man figure, which is like so. Or do I got that backwards? Where's Macho Man? Nah, Macho Man's like, his right hand is closed. So Sting is like so, Macho Man is like so, right? And I don't like that. Those two figures are ruined because of those bad play poses. Oddly enough, I freaking love the Brian Pillman figure. And like I said, I had Brian Pillman Bengals as a kid, and it was a very utilized figure. It was very fun. And with hands open, you would think, okay, how do you enjoy the hands open pose better than the closed fist pose? And B, at least Sting is, straight up, hands up, right? Where Brian Pillman is arched forward with his, his claws out, right? So how do you like the Brian Pillman better? I just do. I think Brian Pillman is just a better figure all around. I think he has a better pose. I think it's more playable, more enjoyable, looks better, better quality. Just every aspect of the Galoob figure is just overall better. So, so I was waiting on this figure because I wanted to get the Series 2 variant, and she did not disappoint, not one bit. Did an absolutely remarkable job highlighting the Panther or the Bengal on the knee pads, right? So such a great figure. I know Brian Pillman isn't going to win this tournament, but man, I don't want to see this guy out after 3 rounds. I don't want to see him out after 4 rounds. Now, well, he's not going to win the tournament, but so would it be fair to see him in the semifinals, the last 4 or 5 stand? Hey, if he's good enough to make it the last 4 or 5, I think I would say, hell yeah, go. Let's do it. Brian Pillman is definitely going to win this matchup, most certainly, but I mean, it's not like I'm just putting a figure forward because I want to see him go forward. I'm trying to choose the best figure that works for me. Now, for the sake of argument, if I enjoyed Hillbilly Jim as a better figure, then yeah, I would have chosen Hillbilly Jim. It's as simple as that. But I know Brian Pillman isn't a round 1 figure. I know he's not a round 2 figure. Does he get eliminated round 3? Hopefully not. Round 4, once you start getting into the best of the best, you might say goodbye. But I'm really expecting this figure to make it to round 5. Again, it's one of the best pieces. I love this figure to death. And it's one of the things I look forward to bringing up and talking about for a couple minutes. So, Brian Pillman will move on to round 3. And Mark's variant of Hillbilly Jim is done for the tournament. Alright guys, that does close out the video for today. As always, thank you so much for watching. You guys know, every 12 videos I've been moving to different points of the room. The next point, I'm going to do the custom wall. Now, once I get to that side of the room, it's kind of dark, so you're not going to have the most lighting over there. I'm kind of going back and forth. Because there's not so much lighting, it's obviously going to make the videos much more darker, and I don't want that. But at the same time, you guys already seen all the figures, so do you need to hit on every single detail of each figure? Probably not, but I don't know. But I say that now because when you do watch those videos, if it's something that, hey, it's too dark, it's distracting, you don't want to see that angle anymore, please let me know in the comments when I film those videos, because I obviously don't want to turn people away, right? I obviously want you to watch the videos and enjoy them as much as possible. So that is all for now, guys. As always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, goodbye, everybody.